A monumental shift has occurred in the Georgia election interference case against President Donald Trump and his allies. The Supreme Court of Georgia, in a narrow 4-3 decision, has permanently removed Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis from the prosecution. The High Court's ruling on Tuesday declined to hear her appeal of a lower court decision that had previously disqualified her. This pivotal action effectively upholds the Georgia Court of Appeals ruling from December 2024, which found that Willis and her entire office must be recused from the landmark racketeering case. The decision sends shockwaves through the legal landscape, the political landscape, fundamentally altering the trajectory of one of the most significant legal challenges facing the former president. The court's decision is not a judgment on the merits of the charges against Trump and his co-defendants. Instead, it centers entirely on the conduct of the prosecutor leading the case. The ruling affirms that the circumstances surrounding Willis created an appearance of impropriety that could not be overlooked, thereby tainting the prosecution in the eyes of the court. With Willis and her team now officially sidelined, the complex and sprawling case is thrown into a state of profound uncertainty. The very continuation of the prosecution is now in question, as the responsibility for moving forward is transferred away from the office that spent years building the intricate indictment against a former United States president. This development marks a significant victory for Donald Trump and the other defendants, who had long argued that the prosecution was politically motivated and compromised. Their legal strategy of focusing on the prosecutor's conduct rather than the evidence has proven remarkably successful. The removal of the district attorney who initiated the charges represents a critical turning point. The case, which accuses the defendants of a criminal enterprise to unlawfully overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia, now faces the daunting prospect of being inherited by a new prosecutorial team. The 4-3 split among the justices of the Georgia Supreme Court underscores the contentious nature of this issue. It highlights the deep divisions over the legal standards for prosecutorial disqualification and the balance between holding public officials accountable and ensuring the integrity of the judicial process itself. This final ruling from the state's highest court closes the door on Willis's involvement and opens a new, unpredictable chapter for the case itself. The core reason behind Fani Willis's removal from the case was her romantic relationship with Nathan Wade, a special prosecutor she appointed to lead the investigation. This relationship became the focal point of defense attorneys' efforts to disqualify her. They argued it created an appearance of impropriety that compromised the prosecution's integrity. The legal challenge wasn't about proving a direct conflict of interest, but whether the circumstances could lead a reasonable person to question fairness and impartiality. The Georgia courts ultimately agreed that threshold had been met. Defense attorneys uncovered personal connections and financial connections between Willis and Wade. They revealed Willis paid Wade's law firm over $650,000. They alleged Wade used portions of those earnings to pay for lavish vacations together in Napa Valley and the Caribbean. Continuation of previous line. That fed a perception of a financial quid pro quo, with Willis enriching her romantic partner who then used funds for their mutual benefit. Continuation of previous line. Willis and Wade denied wrongdoing, but their evidentiary testimony in early 2024 was heavily scrutinized and sometimes contradictory. They said the relationship began after Wade was hired and that they split travel expenses, with Willis reimbursing Wade in cash. Continuation of previous line. The defense attacked their credibility, and missing financial records to back the cash claims fueled suspicion. Judge Scott McAfee said an odor of mendacity lingered over the proceedings, even if he found no direct conflict. Ultimately, the courts found the perception of conflict damaging enough. The Georgia Court of Appeals in December 2024 said the relationship created an untenable situation. It was the appearance, not necessarily proven reality, of a conflict that led to her disqualification. The path to Fani Willis's removal was a months-long legal battle that unfolded in full public view, beginning in early 2024. The critical turning point came in March 2024, when Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee issued his initial ruling on the matter. After weeks of contentious hearings, Judge McAfee concluded that while the relationship between Willis and Nathan Wade did not create an actual conflict of interest under Georgia law, it had created a significant appearance of impropriety. To remedy this, he presented Willis with a stark choice. She and her entire office step aside, or Nathan Wade must resign from his position as special prosecutor. Just hours after Judge McAfee's ultimatum was delivered, Nathan Wade tendered his resignation. In a letter to Willis, he stated that he was stepping down in the interest of democracy, in dedication to the American public, and to move this case forward as quickly as possible. In the interest of democracy, his departure was intended to cure the issue and allow Willis's office to proceed with the prosecution of Trump and the other defendants. For a brief period, it appeared that this move had resolved the conflict, clearing the way for the case to move toward a trial. However, the defendants were not satisfied with this outcome and quickly moved to appeal Judge McAfee's decision. The defense attorneys argued that Wade's resignation was insufficient to cleanse the taint of impropriety from the case. They contended that Willis herself was the source of the conflict and that her entire office should be disqualified. In June 2024, their appeal gained significant traction when the Georgia Court of Appeals agreed to hear the case. In a move that signaled the seriousness of the challenge, the appeals court put the entire prosecution on hold indefinitely while it considered the matter. This decision effectively froze all trial preparations and ensured that the case would not proceed before the 2024 presidential election. The legal saga culminated in December 2024, when the Court of Appeals delivered its decisive blow, ruling that Willis and her office must be removed entirely. The court sided with the defense, finding that the appearance of impropriety was too severe to be cured by Wade's resignation alone. On Tuesday, the High Court declined to take up her appeal in its 4-3 vote, thereby making the Court of Appeals disqualification order the final word on the matter and officially ending her involvement in the case she had championed. Following the Georgia Supreme Court's decision, the reactions from the two central figures were starkly different: Donald Trump and Fani Willis. President Trump celebrated the ruling as a major vindication. He hailed the court's action as, quote, "a great decision," and immediately used it to reinforce his long-standing claims that the prosecution was politically motivated. A great decision, continuation of quote. He characterized the entire legal effort led by Willis as a rigged case, framing her removal as proof that the foundation of the case was corrupt and biased against him from its inception. Trump's response was one of triumph, portraying the legal setback for the prosecution as a personal and political victory. He has consistently argued the various legal challenges are part of a coordinated witch hunt. The disqualification of the district attorney, who brought one of the most serious cases against him, provides powerful ammunition for this narrative. For Trump and his supporters, the decision is not merely procedural, but a validation that the justice system was being weaponized, and her removal serves as a powerful symbol of that narrative's success. On the other side, Fani Willis issued a statement expressing disappointment but also a respect for the judicial process. She stated she disagreed with the court's decision not to review her appeal but affirmed that her office would comply with the ruling. In her public comments, Willis sought to shift the focus back to the evidence and the underlying allegations of the case. "I hope that whoever is assigned to handle the case will have the courage to do what the evidence demands and to do what the law demands," implying that the case remains strong, regardless of who is prosecuting it. Willis's reaction was one of professional deference to the rule of law, even as she clearly felt the outcome was unjust. Her statement also confirmed the next procedural step. Her office would work to transfer the case file and all related evidence to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, the state agency now tasked with finding a new prosecutor. Her measured response stands in sharp contrast to Trump's celebratory tone, highlighting the deep chasm between the two sides. While Trump declared the case rigged, Willis urged that the pursuit of justice continue, framing her removal as an obstacle to be overcome rather than an indictment of the case itself. With Fani Willis and the Fulton County District Attorney's Office officially removed, the future of the Georgia election interference case is now shrouded in uncertainty. The immediate next step is the formal transfer of the case to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, or PAC. This state-level agency is now responsible for the monumental task of finding a new prosecutor, or maybe even a team of prosecutors, willing and able to take on this incredibly complex and politically charged case. Honestly, this process is expected to be difficult and time-consuming, introducing yet another significant delay into a prosecution that has already been stalled for months. The challenges in reassigning the case are immense. The indictment involves 19 defendants and is built on a complex racketeering, or RICO charge, which requires a deep understanding of the intricate web of evidence gathered over several years by Willis's team. Any new prosecutor would face a steep learning curve, needing to master thousands of documents and witness testimonies before even thinking about proceeding to trial. Furthermore, finding a district attorney's office in Georgia with the resources, expertise, and political will to take on a case against a sitting United States president is a formidable obstacle. Many legal experts believe it may be difficult to find a prosecutor willing to step into such a volatile situation. This logistical nightmare has led many legal analysts to speculate that the case may effectively be dead, or at the very least, dormant for the foreseeable future. Even if the Prosecuting Attorneys Council successfully appoints a new prosecutor, the timeline for getting up to speed would likely take many months, if not years. This long delay could lead to a variety of complications, including witnesses becoming unavailable or memories fading. Furthermore, a critical legal and constitutional issue looms over the entire proceeding: the prosecution of a sitting president. The Department of Justice has a long-standing policy against indicting a sitting president in federal court, and while this is a state case, similar legal principles and practical challenges apply. It's highly unlikely that any trial involving President Trump could proceed while he is still in office. Therefore, even if a new prosecutor is appointed and gets up to speed, the case against Trump himself would almost certainly be paused until after he leaves the White House, pushing any potential trial date years into the future and rendering the case's ultimate outcome more uncertain than ever.